Everything good with my friend Roger in the TV control room?
Oh, is the press are in the meeting now?
The
press are in the meeting now.
I see that. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Cathett Regional District Finance Committee for Wednesday, October 17th to order, and recognize that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territories of the Tla'amin people who have lived here for many thousands of years. First item is approval of the agenda, and I want to point out that we've got two requests for unregistered delegation, and if the body is happy with that, I'll entertain those under delegations on the agenda. We've got two, and my choice would be to limit those delegations to 10 minutes each. And we'll go on with the agenda. A motion to adopt the agenda. Director Brabazon, seconded by Director McCormick. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I'll point out that Director Leishman is unable to join us this afternoon, so we'll be going ahead without her. Next item is adoption of the minutes of the July 13th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting.
Move adoption.
Second.
All seconded by Director Gisborne. Any errors or omission or discussion on the minutes? I don't see any hands. All those in favor of adopting the minutes is circulated. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Here we are all of a sudden at delegations and inquiries. So Mr. Mike Rags, Ben and Volunteer Fire Department. You go first. You got 10 minutes. Sit in the chair, you'll be in focus of the camera.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Craggs with Fernando Fire. We're here to discuss what occurred with Texada Rescue for us. We expected a budget contribution of $13,500. It ended up being $4,000, which is barely enough to keep the team running this year. And originally, we had asked if it was possible to get a budget increase, and we were expecting a yes or no answer. We did not expect to have our budget dropped by 75% just for asking. We were not informed or warned, and there was no way we could have planned for this. So instead of $15,000 or $13,500 a year, we have $4,200. It cost us about $5,000 to run the program for the year. Our vehicle gas is about $2,500. Our car insurance is $1,280. So we're getting almost at the point now. That's without doing anything else. We have to provide gloves, all kinds of stuff for our people. And basically, I mean, I have talked with other people. They're saying, well, the bylaw is badly written. It needs to be redone. What we're really concerned about is this could have been a $20,000 lawyer's hit or whatever it was that they dropped, and we would have had no budget at all, or we would have lost the entirety of the budget this year and next year as well. We are concerned that if the budget is going to be changed, it needs to be done over years and not all in one time. And certainly we should have been included in the decision to go forth with this kind of thing, because had we known it was going to cost that much, we would not have gone ahead. We provide a huge service for everybody on the island, and everybody on the island pays for it. And now I have to explain to them, like, there's things that we cannot do anymore. We are routing revenue streams from fire into Texada Rescue to keep it operating for this year because we don't have enough money. So all of our donations to the fire department are being routed to make sure that we have enough to keep the units running. And that's really not what the donations are for. It should be a self-financed operation. So there are things like, you know, there are costs that we have. We have to have a yearly inspection done on the truck. We don't have enough money for that this year, so fire will have to pay for it. And we cannot send it out as an uninspected vehicle because there's liability issues with that for my firefighters. And simply put, we won't do that. But we do need to know going forward how badly our budget is going to be impacted. Last year, we had been saving for a vehicle. We had an opportunity to upgrade the tools last year with a grant application. The grant was not enough to do everything, so we took our truck savings and applied it in addition to the grant, to convert all of our tools over. And that took away almost all of the savings. If this was going to happen, we certainly wouldn't have done that. Because now we're in a position where we don't have any savings and we have $4,000 to run for a year. Yeah, basically, there was no warning that this was coming. There was no indication that just asking this question was going to result in a financial penalty. It really feels punitive for us just asking. There was no communication from the closet. There was no warning. When it was discovered that we could not, why were we not informed and just said, we can't, under the way the bylaw is played out, we can't increase your budget. And then we could make a plan to go forward and change it. But we weren't informed. It was just suddenly, no, we talked to lawyers, spent all your money, have a good year. And really, it's insulting for the people of Texada and me as somebody who's trying to provide a service with a bunch of volunteers at a minimal cost, and then we are sort of pushed aside. And I guess that's really my big point right now. If you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Do you want to appear as one delegation with Mr. Smith, or do you want?
Yes. I think Ron has.
We could listen to Ron now and then have questions for both of you at the end if you want that.
Yeah, he is the board. The board oversees my fire department.
Okay, makes sense to me. If it makes sense with the board, we'll listen to both presenters and then ask questions from either one after Mr. Smith is done. Go ahead.
Well, I think you've heard of Mike, and I think you're well aware of the issue. Just point out that I just looked over Mike's budget for his fire department, and he doesn't have the money to give. He's probably going to run out of money before the end of the year just for the fire. So I'm not sure where you're getting your money from, Mike, but I would hope that maybe QRD is going to supply that. And I think that what we have to do is sort of go back to what the money, and reiterate what Mike said, go back to what the money was meant to be used for. It was actually taxation revenue from the residents of Texada Island for the purpose of Texada Rescue, and it's been spent on something else. And it was spent without our knowledge and consideration. And I think that was a wrong that QRD might have to make right, because it's going to impact a lot of people here on the island. Hopefully not, but accidents happen, and that's the whole purpose of Texada Rescue. And I just look at the news, this last week or two, and hear of all these people in Ashcroft that end up dying because they don't have ambulance service to their house, which is 10 minutes away from the station. And you're saying, well, how can that happen? Well, I don't want this to be a case where it's on the news next, because it could very well happen without the funding for Texada Rescue. It'd just be such a shame if that came to be. So the only point that I really have after all that is that I'm really hoping that QRD finds its way to make this right somehow. Thank you very much. And like Mike says, hopefully we can answer any of your questions.
Okay. Questions from the members of the board?
Thank you, Chair. Question to Fire Chief Craigs or Ron, whichever prefer. You asked for an increase in your budget.
Yes.
And did you have any idea what was entailed, what was involved when you made that request? And did you request that the district increase your budget, or did you ask if it was possible to increase your your budget?
This is the first time in 7 years we've asked for an increase.
Mhm.
And we just said, is it possible to get us an increase? And we assumed it was a yes, no, or we'll see what we can do for you. Not suddenly, there was nothing, no communication at all. And then the deposit was made to the bank of $4,000. And I called up, was this from EMBC? And I was told, no, this is the entirety of your operating budget for next year. So very poor communications.
I add that asking for an increase after 7 years can't be unexpected given inflation.
One more question.
Thank you, Chair. And would you agree then that the money that Texada taxpayers pay was paid in good faith and that they would have the expectation of a road rescue service should they need it?
Yes, and that is why we supply this service, so that because we are isolated, should a vehicle accident happen, it would take a very long time to get people from Powell River over. So we need an on-island system to help with people like that. And the equipment and tools required for it, for the legal reasons, are really expensive.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? Director Brandon.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just curious through the chair if staff has had a chance to look at this and come up with any possible solutions.
Through the chair, the direct questions are directed to the delegation.
Sorry, take it back.
Yeah, we have an item on the agenda that's coming up later that Director McCormick has put on the agenda, and there'll be an opportunity from staff and for debate among the directors at that time. Any other questions for the delegation? I don't see any other hands, so thank you for coming and explaining the situation you're in. I've seen some documentation of it ahead of the meeting and what the issue is. So thanks for coming and explaining it to us tonight. And again, it'll be on the agenda a little later in the meeting.
All right, well, thank you very much.
You can stay for that if you like to.
No, I'm heading back.
I want to
Yes,
catch.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That brings us, we have no unfinished business. That brings us to correspondence. And the first one is from the president of the Vancouver Island North Zone Commission. A letter of thanks for financial support. Director McCormick.
Receipt.
Have a seconder for the motion to receive. Director Paul, thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? I don't see any. That's carried unanimously. Next, correspondence from UBCM President or a Canada Community Building Fund First Community Works Fund payment for 2022/23.
I'll move receipt.
Second.
Seconded by Director Gisborne. It's always nice to hear that we're getting money. Appreciate that. Any other comments? All those in favor of receiving? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Reports. Item 7.1, the Provincial Wood Stove Exchange Program Grant Application. Moved by Director Bratton, seconded by Director McCormick. Give an opportunity for any staff members who want to make any comments about the proposal before we have a discussion by the board. Abby McClelland, would you like to say something?
I just hear if there's any specific questions, but it's just the same, basically the same program with some small updates as years previous.
Okay. Looks like a good tweak to me. I'll just jump right in because I don't see any other hands. Looks like it's focusing on switching to heat pumps and high efficiency wood burning equipment. So it looks like a useful thing. I just want to point out that last night at the city's committee of the whole meeting, we contributed, made did the beginning efforts to contribute $30,000 to transfer from fossil fuels to heat pumps within the city. And I think it's all part of a good program, so I support this. Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. I support the motion and going forward, but just one caveat: when the power goes out, which it often does for 3 or 4 days at a time on Texada, when you have a heat pump or an electrical, powered appliance, heat appliance, then you're just plain cold and there's no option. So yes, it's a good thing. Improving our air quality is a really good thing, but people should always try to have a backup, because without electricity, it's really hard to stay warm when you go the heat pump route. We have a heat pump and love it, but we also have a wood stove.
And this, I understand, allows people to get a subsidy for putting in a high efficiency wood stove, which I think is a good idea. Go ahead.
So through the chair, thank you. Just in regard to Director McCormick's comment, new to the program in 2023 is the option to allow people to keep their wood stove so long as it's EPA or CSA certified, and then upgrade to a heat pump. So that's like a new feature, because your point exactly was brought up, needing supplemental heat when it's really cold out, or if the power goes out.
Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I also just wanted to mention, I think these changes are really good, and I had understood what Ms. McLennan just said. And on Lasqueti, there's been a little discussion recently of low power heat pumps. So there starts to be some heat pumps that might even be possible on Lasqueti to do this kind of added system. Probably no one's going to get rid of their wood stove. They might put a high efficiency EPA one in, but I think it's good changes. I think dropping the propane option is really good, because that's kind of counter to climate adaptation, and adding in emphasis for First Nations participation is good too. So I think it's a good improvement to the program. Thank you.
Anyone else? Director Gisborne.
Oh, thank you. And I'd like to thank staff for this report and the continued operation of this program, which I'm all in favor of. When I was talking to some other directors about air quality and smoke reduction, one of the topics that came up was I believe it's called Purple Air, and it's this kind of international program where they're putting sensors up to determine real-time air quality. And I went to the map that they directed me to, and there's purple air monitors all over the coast, but our region seems to be kind of a dead zone area. So I was wondering, is there any kind of plan in the future to say, I don't know whether purple air will be the one to look at, because I think they do it for free, but a way to actually monitor our air quality control going forward in the future? That way, as we continue to use this program, we can see what the long-term impacts are on it, to see if we actually are making that difference in improving the air quality in the local community. That's my question, Chair. Thank you.
Any answers for Director Gisborne? CAO.
Through the chair, we don't actually operate any of that program, so we would have to reach out to the province. But at some of the latest air quality reports that I've seen, we tend to still have some of the cleanest air in the province. I think for all intents and purposes, we are very fortunate to be granted this money because of our clean air status, but it certainly does go a long way to those families and property owners, et cetera, that can use this grant funding effectively.
Okay, thank you. And my apologies. The point that was brought to my attention was that other regional districts, they were using regional district buildings and regional district facilities to then put these air monitors up. That was I think the extent of their partnership. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Devereaux, I think your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to just address Director Gisborne's question a bit there. We are installing monitors to monitor air quality in our region. I'm just trying to review. I believe there's one going in at the Lund Community Hall. There's one going in at the Texada Senior Center. And inside the Texada Senior Center, so we actually can real-time monitor outdoor air quality as opposed to indoor air quality at the same time. So if there have a big smoke event like we did a few years ago with the Ilaho fire, that we can monitor what the quality is inside and out. I can't remember all the exact locations, but there's at least 3 in our area.
Thank you. That's wonderful news. Thumbs up all around. Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Lots of extra information here. Don't see any other hands up. So all those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, 8.1, Texada Island Emergency Programs Extended Service Establishment Bylaw. McCormick.
Thank you,
Do
Chair.
you have a motion?
I do have a motion, and Ms. Sturton has a copy of the wording, so he will hopefully put it on the board. So it's asking for a report regarding opportunities for financial relief for Texada Rescue.
Yeah, can everybody on screen see that?
Yep.
Seconded by Director Fall. Any discussion? Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard from both the fire chief in Venanda and the chair of the improvement district about the situation that they are in. Now, I have no argument with the need for a new bylaw, and I have no argument with charging the legal costs to this service, because that's what it's for. But I do have concerns. First of all, that staff went ahead and did a whole pile of work regarding when they had simply asked the question, is it possible to have an increase? So they didn't actually say, we want you to do a whole pile of work. So I'm concerned about that. I'm also concerned, Chair, about the lack of communication. Surely at some point in the preliminary work and the legal work, et cetera, it became obvious that there would be a significant reduction in their budget by 3/4, given the volume of work that was done. Yet nobody chose to alert them to that fact. They had no idea that there was asking for an increase was going to result in a 3/4 decrease in their operating budget for 2022. That puts a huge limitation. It cripples their ability to serve the community, in fact. And the community, meanwhile, has of course paid $15,000 in good faith taxes collected from throughout the island for a road rescue service. And that expectation is still there. We in our strategic plan, as you'll recall, and other directors will recall, stressed an emphasis on communication and improving communication and having effective communication and engagement with the public and the communities that we serve. Yet this is an example of a community group that fell through the cracks of our communication. Staff knew there would be a 3/4 decrease in their operating budget, but nobody bothered to tell them until the check arrived. So, we're here in this situation. I don't know, Chair, what the answer is, which is why I'm asking for a staff report. I would like to know, perhaps if I may direct a couple of questions to staff, would they be eligible for a grant and aid? There is about $6,000 left in the Area D grant and aid budget. There's community works funds, there's other, funding streams that are out there. So if I may ask the question, could they apply for a grant and aid? The deadline is August 31st, you'll recall. So if they do qualify, they would need to get their application in prior to receiving any information back at a subsequent finance committee.
So if you're done, I don't want to interrupt you.
That's my first question, yes. Thank you.
Okay, I want to point out that the motion you've put forward is for staff to bring back a report regarding opportunities for financial relief for Texada Island Rescue. That's one thing. They made a lot of comments about communication and things like that. I don't see that covered in the request for a report on financial relief for Texada Rescue. That's a different question. And as far as what the report might include, I would suggest that we wait until we see the report to ask questions about what it can include. But I believe that CAO would understand if I'll just ask the CAO if he understands what's being asked for by Director McCormick in this motion and allowing you to take to prepare a report like that.
Through the chair, I don't want to put any pressure on Mr. Groenhoven, so I'll ask him how long he thinks he needs to prepare that report.
Mr. Groenhoven.
Thank you, through the chair. If the report's on our standard finance committee schedule, we would obviously be bringing it forward in September. As some of the options for financial assistance may be a little more time sensitive. So as Director McCormick mentioned, the second intake of grants and aid deadline is for August 31st. So we may not be able to compile this report and get it back in a timely manner to address everything. But certainly, I think there are options to explore, and it may take some time to put this together. So I don't want to overpromise.
I'm gonna just ask one clarifying question, Mr. Groenhoven, and perhaps the CAO at the same time. Is that Director McCormick's question was, could these organizations apply to the regional district for a grant in aid when the upcoming deadline is coming, and could they do that without a report being ready yet? You've got your hand up, Mr. Groenhoven. What's your opinion?
Thank you, Chair. Certainly, I would encourage Vancouver Improvement District to apply for our financial assistance program. We will need to see the application and assess it against our financial assistance policy before we can really comment on eligibility. But that would certainly be the fastest first move that I would recommend personally.
That's a clear answer. Thank you. I hope that helps, Director McCormick.
Yes, thank you, Chair. That definitely gives them a place to start. And of course, to be followed up by the report coming back from staff.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that the last time we asked a question, it sucked a lot of the funding from their budget. If we're asking for another staff report, is that going to further impact the finances for that service to be asking our staff to compile a report? Will that be paid for by the people of Texada coming out of that pot, or will it be something more of general administration or electoral area administration? I'm just curious how this motion, if passed, and the subsequent report could impact these people on Texada. And while it isn't entirely within the motion, I'm on the same line of thinking as Director McCormick that communication is really important, and maybe a different motion, maybe at the board, to issue an apology for how this has transpired. But that'll be for another time. Thank you, Chair.
The CAO question.
Through the chair. As you know, we do time in motion and we track that. So luckily, I believe that this one is going to be just flowing through general admin. So there will be no extra time and anything allocated against the Texada rescue budget.
Okay. Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. My follow-up question is about communication. These people fell through the cracks of our communications policy, much as we've made it a goal in our strategic plan, to improve the way we communicate and engage. I would like to, try to make sure that this doesn't happen to any other group. And so I would request that communications, although we do have a report on an updated communications plan, there's nothing in there that would address this situation. I would like to refer that to strategic planning so that we have an opportunity to discuss, and this will be the new board, whether there is an obligation on the part of staff to alert community groups when things like this, are in the works. I understand there is no obligation now. They weren't alerted, they were caught, literally with, no gas in the tank. So I just would like to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. So do you need a motion to refer this to strategic planning?
I was going to, as I'm listening to you, I was simply thinking about my reading of earlier today and realizing that the board's communication policy is actually on the agenda for a meeting in the distant future tomorrow. About the same time in the same place. And I think that'd be an excellent place to add that to the discussion or to refer it to where we want to. I think that's the easiest way to do it. It's coming up on our agenda tomorrow, and we can have a discussion about the details of the issue if that works for everybody.
That's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the question period. I see that River Peak has been online with us through the meeting. So, Mr. Golinski, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. I did not catch the name of the chief that presented during the delegation. Could somebody help me with that, please?
Director McCormick?
Yes, Mike Craggs, C-R-A-G-G-S. He is the fire chief of the Venanda Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you very much for that, Director McCormick. That was my question, Chair. Thank you.
And Ron Smith also, the Venanda Improvement District. Well, thank you, Mr. Galinsky. Any other members of the public online that want to answer a question or ask a question? I see head shaking all around. That brings us to the fact that we have no proposed closed session tonight. It means the barbecue is coming even closer. So this meeting is adjourned, and I'll see everybody early tomorrow at 4.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
I don't know, I haven't been told yet.